This is an opinionated video!
So, if you didn't already know, I'm a bit of a Sonic nerd. If you know me in person, you've seen me scribble a couple of Sonics in my time. He was one of the first characters I made fan art of. I think he's way past cool. Like most of my special interests, they kind of come and go in waves, so my most recent phase is my Sonic kick. It's probably because Cybershell and Bernie decided to release more Netlore episodes, but whatever. I decided I would sit down and play some Sonic 1 since I haven't done that in about 15 years or so, and wow, it's a fucking stinker. I'm no stranger to old games or difficult games, but I can definitely see how Nintendo Bros just didn't fucking get Sonic, because the first Sonic game just seems like shit. If I was a gamer in the late 80s and early 90s, and I wanted to spend all of my 90s dollars on a new console just to play this thing called Sonic the Hedgehog, it had better blow my mind. Reason being is because this is where I'm at, Mario 3. A pretty great game that checks all the boxes in my book, and I'm walking into this? This is just fucking tragic. Sure, it's got more colors. Aw dang, he can go pretty fast too. But in just under 10 minutes, you'll know that you've had more fun in Mario than you can get out of this game. Just a little heads up so you don't think I'm coming at this with some kind of bad luck or a freak accident on a first impression. This isn't the first time I played and beat Sonic 1. In the 90s, my parents had some friends that had a kid that was the same age as me, and he had Sonic 1. And I thought it was pretty cool, but it always seemed like we played Sonic 2 for some reason. I wonder why that might be. I soon found out later in life when my aunt got Sonic Mega Collection Plus on that cool PS2 that the game was a rancid dumpster fire. That being said, I was blessed with the ability known as save states. I wouldn't have gotten through the game otherwise with so many better games on the disc. Now, in the Dark Lord's year of 2024, I'm playing Sonic 1 using some mods, specifically this one that just adds spin dash and a homing attack. Oh yeah, and you're playing as Shadow the Hedgehog. But even with all that help, this game just doesn't cut the mustard. The identity of this predecessor is far superseded by the sequels that came out shortly after and beyond. Out of anyone else that I know, I hadn't really heard praises for this game from them. All of their blessings are put into Sonic 2, which to me isn't even my favorite of the classic Sonic games. I know that was a bit of pretense for me getting into this, but I feel like I couldn't do this video otherwise. Let me break it down finally. If you were to ask someone what 2D Sonic is all about, they'd probably tell you that it's a platformer that's based on running to the right and platforming correctly to maintain a high speed. Playing the first level Green Hill Zone, you'd be right. Green Hill Act 1 is a classic and is honestly well crafted for a first step into the franchise. However, as soon as you get to Marble Zone, the game becomes much more about waiting and doing precise platforming over pits of lava. You have to push these little blocks so that you can stand on top of them and then jump onto the next platform. Sure, you're riding across lava, but it just really means that you're waiting. But it's not just the blocks and the lava, you have to wait for badniks, and you have to wait for spikes coming out of the walls and falling on your head, that kind of thing. After 3 acts of Green Hill Zone, this next one just kind of shows you what the rest of the game's going to be like. Once we get to Spring Yard, nothing has really changed, but the music kind of bops. That being said, it's a Sonic game. The music always slaps. So in Spring Yard, you're sort of forced to run into these springs that throw you into the general path, you press switches, and then you wait on these weird vertical elevator blocks, all while hitting bumpers and going around pinball architecture. I don't really want to draw more comparisons to Mario, but the second act just kind of feels like a Bowser level, specifically the section where you have to avoid the rotating spikes. Now here's the bad part. Everybody hates the water level. Oh god, here comes the water level. Well, they're absolutely right. I dislike Labyrinth Zone. I don't know anyone that likes it. I'm not entirely convinced that Sonic started this "the water level is hard" bullshit, but Sega certainly didn't help with this one. Just as the title card suggests, this stage is full of twists, turns, and traps. Not to mention all the water that's making sure that you have to worry about your air capacity. Can't hedgehogs swim or float or something? Labyrinth Zone Acts 1 and 2 throw you through much of the same complaints that I've had about Marble Zone and Spring Yard. You have to wait on these little pulley systems that don't seem to do any work. Lots of spikes and spears you have to avoid walking into instead of just running on a cool straightaway and making it look cool while you do it. Now, Act 3 is the level I disliked the most up to this point. It focuses mostly on puzzles and making you drown. Like, no joke, the level starts you out with this looping puzzle that confuses children and crossfaded stoners alike. I had originally thought that this puzzle was something introduced in Ice Cap Zone from Sonic 3. Turns out it was at the very beginning of the series. After going through the spike tubes, there's this room that there's a switch that's incredibly close to the ceiling, and in order to hit the switch, you have to jump at a very specific arc onto the spring. It takes a few tries, but it's just plain annoying because if you fail a couple of times, you need to stand on top of these air bubbles and just pray that it gives you air in time for you to not drown. Oh, and I'm not done complaining just yet. This next room requires you hit this switch and then the door opens to the above room. You had better make sure that you know what you're going to do whenever you come into this room, because the water just rises up without warning. You have to jump up on these Minecraft end stones to get to the right side, and if you stand too long, you'll just get crushed. And just for good measure, in case if you wanted to try at the very last second, they put spikes on the ceiling so that you'd have to lose all your rings for not knowing immediately. Which leads me to this last room. This boss fight was infuriating for me. This boss was just a chase through the labyrinth where you have to platform vertically and carefully. Don't tell a CD or a Chaotix fan, but I don't really think Sonic was meant to be played vertically. I didn't know what I was doing wrong here because I kept dying to the stage hazards. I had thought that the point of this level was to hit the boss like 8 times like most other boss fights, and I just couldn't navigate through the tunnels efficiently enough. Though this last time doing it, I just sort of gave up and I followed them all the way through, which is what you're supposed to do. I didn't really have a way of knowing that though. Sonic 1 doesn't have a story that's presented to you, meaning like there's not that many cutscenes in it. You can't just open up the instruction booklet and read, oh hey, there's this one level that's a little different in particular. It's right in the middle of the game. No, you just had to guess. Also, I hate to break your immersion, but I never went and made save states from this point. I just ended up using the rewind function in the Steam release of this game. From this point on, there just seems to be like a lot of bullshit pitfalls or missed checkpoints. And apparently I didn't get good enough to get extra lives and continues. Sorry I'm not a true gamer. As I'm writing this script, I realize that I've spent a whole page complaining about this particular level, and I'm truly sorry about that. If you didn't skip ahead, thanks for being a trooper. No one that I know in my everyday life would care to listen to me yap about something like this without changing the subject a couple of times. If you've made it this far without skipping, leave me a comment that says, "You're a professional yapper." Now after that hellhole, you drop straight into Starlight Zone Act 1, which honestly is a breath of fresh air. The stressful boss music from your Labyrinth Zone escape is finally over. The new track is now a nice, upbeat, and whimsical tune. It also has this nighttime aesthetic, which I really enjoy. It has its few traps and parts where you have to wait for a moment, and you get to run for a little bit? Wow, it's like an actual Sonic level. Yeah, you get mixed up a little bit, but at least you get to go fast. And to me, that's honestly like the most important thing about it being a Sonic game. The boss has a good gimmick as well. Scrap Brain Zone is full of the most bullshit death traps you could throw at somebody. It's almost as if the zone was designed to take up your time getting back to this stage. If this stage isn't trying to kill you, it's trying to waste your time. The worst thing about this level is it just gaslights you. It lets you go fast by bumping you into these springs, but you immediately hit walls, or death traps, or bad nicks, just shit in the way. Imagine you're playing a modern Sonic game, like a boost game. Let's say a boost game. So you hit your boost button, and you immediately hit a wall. What kind of fun could that be? None. It's not fun. The franchise wouldn't survive that way. People would complain harder than I did about Labyrinth Zone. There's this one fucking trap in Act 2, where there is fire coming out of the ceiling, with a locking trapdoor underneath it, and inside of the trapdoor, there's this Tesla coil waiting to shock you while you're locked in. Kudos whoever designed this overly unnecessary trap. Here, let me look it up. It looks like a Mr. Hirokazu Yasuhara. Sir, you are a twisted individual. This cannot be legal. If Act 2 wasn't enough for you, Act 3 is just fucking Labyrinth Zone again. I don't remember where I heard it, but there's some theory crafting that when Robotnik drops down at the end of Act 2, it would explain that Scrap Brain Zone is just built directly on top of the labyrinths. And I guess that's kinda cool. Interesting, in fact. But it doesn't make me like the zones anymore. The final zone is just a boss fight. There are no rings, there are no power-ups, there are no checkpoints, there is no nothing. Just Robotnik and a hydraulic press. You just have to dodge so he's not shocking you or crushing you or laughing at you, which is honestly kinda bland. All in all, I don't really have much to say about the ending of this game. It doesn't have a big cutscene at the end of the game where it just wraps it all up in a nice bow. Not too many games did something like that at the end. With this one, you just get a little bit of fanfare while running back through Green Hill Zone. Remember Green Hill Zone? The good level? Where you could run fast? Yeah, those were good times. Sorry we did all that Labyrinth Zone stuff to you. Well, we finally made it to the end of the game and the video. Thanks for listening to me complain about this game. I didn't really want to have to rake it over the coals the way I did, but I don't think that it would have nearly been as entertaining if I just said game bad or game not fast the 800 times that I felt it while playing this game. Let me know what you thought about this video, tell me if you liked it, I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments. Most importantly, be sure to tell me how I shouldn't be so rough on a game that is over 30 years removed from the current day.
Okay, bye.